The Process Podcast, breaking down the daily habits, processes, and tools of high achievers. Now, here's your host, Brad Wilson.
Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to the Process Podcast. If you haven't yet taken the next step in our relationship, which would be subscribing to this podcast, I want you to take a moment and just think about it. Think about how much you would like to automatically get my latest releases every single week. And maybe if you're not ready to take the next step today, maybe next week. I planted a seed. Like I've said a bajillion times before, it's the number one way that you can support this endeavor. And speaking of support, if you would like to support the show financially, the simplest and easiest thing you can do is click through that big black button on my website that says Shop Amazon. It's my affiliate link and allows me to get a little tiny baby percentage of whatever you buy at no extra cost to you. And if you would like to support the show directly, you can visit my Patreon at patreon.com/theprocesspodcast. On today's show, we have Matt Javit. A few years back, Matt and Nicki got the travel bug. And they didn't get this bug in the form of a tenuous thought or notion that, yeah, one day, once we have enough money, freedom, etc., we'll travel the world. They got it in a, okay, what actionable steps do we need to take to make this dream happen kind of way? Those actionable steps included budgeting, making sure they came back home to careers, that they weren't jobless when they got back home, selling all of their stuff, and then telling everybody else what they were going to do. So if you've ever wanted to know just how much money it costs to travel around the world for a year, how to enjoy yourself despite being in a different culture than what you're used to, how to react when faced with a source of regular negativity, or just how incredibly thoughtful and different the Japanese culture really is, then this is the episode for you. So without any more words coming out of my face hole, I know I talk a lot. I'm a long-winded guy. Here's my conversation with Matt Javit. Matt, konnichiwa. How are you doing, my friend?
Wonderful. Thank you.
So you and your wife are hanging out in Japan. How's Japan?
It's been quite the experience. It's one of those places that it's been on the list for a really long time as we started our adventure, and to finally be here is pretty surreal.
So speaking of your adventure, I want to go back to before the adventure began. You and your wife, y'all had good jobs. And when I was doing my research on y'all, it's very apparent that you're well-loved. Your friends think a lot of you. Why the decision to leave everything behind for 2 years?
Yeah, it was one of those where we had thought about it for a while. We'd both been stricken pretty hard with the travel bug about 6 years ago now. And it was one of those things where we'd been to Istanbul, Turkey, Croatia, probably Greece at that point. And we just, every time we came home, we longed for more. We just felt like, 2 weeks away is amazing and a chance to recharge. But we just thought that if we could do this in a long-term capacity, how could that potentially change our lives? And so over the next 4 or 5 years, we worked really hard. We planned a certain way, and we created some big dreams and goals, and set out to find a way to take 2 to 3 years off to travel the world full time.
What was the number one big dream or goal that you were working towards?
I think it was just the idea to set out to be able to save enough money to get away for an extended period of time and do it our way, in a way that we could get into the communities, see all parts of the world, not just a particular area, but get a chance to see multiple parts of the world, and then really interact with the culture and to be able to see tremendous sites like Machu Picchu, the Galapagos Islands, Taj Mahal, places like that, Japan, as we are now. And to be able to experience all these different amazing sites, but at the same time, get a chance to meet locals and have those conversations that would change us in a way that when we come back, we look at the world differently. Not that when we left, we thought of the world a certain way in a negative light, because we're both very positive people and we loved our lives, like you said, back home, but just change it. I mean, just change our perspective in how we approach life, or just have a different philosophy, a more open philosophy when we come back.
If you don't mind me asking, what does a budget like that look for 2 years of straight travel?
No, it's funny. Everybody's afraid to ask this question. We've typically avoided the ask, because there's books out there, $50 a day. And when I was telling my friends and family back home before we left, I probably made 120, 140 personal phone calls to say, hey, this is what we're doing. For my buddies to say, dude, we're doing this. It's crazy, I know, but my wife, Nicki, and I are doing it. We're making it happen. And I think 2 people asked me that question. Only 2 people asked me, like, dude, how much money did that cost? But to give you an idea, we've changed our budget over the time. And that was another. Yeah. We started it with a certain number, and we've since adjusted. And all encompassing, it's about $4,000 a month. That's everything. That's flights, transportation, accommodations, going out, sightseeing. That's everything. And
that's for both of you.
That's for both of us combined. And we've done a really good job of keeping at or under that number. We set out with a bigger number than that, and we've because we've adjusted it, we will be able to travel even longer. And we're working really hard to get that number down further, because we've worked in now like house sits and pet sits, where we watch we had a chance to watch a couple of cats in Zurich, Switzerland for 3 weeks and live for free. There's amazing websites out there that can do that. We've done workaways in 4 different countries where we volunteer our skills and services to help at bed and breakfasts. And there's a wide variety of things in that website that you can volunteer with in exchange for housing and meals sometimes. So we've done things that are absolutely outside of our comfort zone. When you're talking about sweating, went like crazy in Greece for a month, working at a bed and breakfast in their peak season in August, where I'm taking beds up and down 3 flights of stairs and stuff like that. And my wife has cleaned many a toilet and stuff during the workaways. So we definitely stepped outside our boundaries. And especially when you're talking about, in a non-boastful way, we're 2 people that worked really hard, had a good lifestyle, had good livings. And my wife's got her doctorate, and I was a professional in technology sales services. So we had a certain lifestyle, and for us to step back now and take very humbling approaches where we've stayed in hostels, we've stayed in $10 a night accommodations. It's changed us, and it's been a great thing to be able to see the world in a different way, but get closer to the cultures that we're going to, but also do some challenging and more humble things that adjust our lives. I'm 42 now. Nicki's 37. So we're in a stage where we should be transitioning into like a more relaxed type of a living style. But we've decided life's long. It's got many chapters. Let's create a different chapter at this stage.
So is there anything that you've learned in your experience that you wish you had known before you started? And if so, could you share that with the audience?
Yeah. I think it's what I just described about saving that money, like the house sitter thing. We knew about it, but we didn't dive right in as much. And there wasn't that many opportunities based on the areas that we were at to save as much money early on. And then, and I guess a lot of the learning has been financial. it's more about understanding how to adjust to certain budgets. Like Europe it can be really expensive, but we save money in South America, in India and Vietnam. So the learning process has been very gradual. Like, hey, we pick up tips on how to save money and on airport transportation and not booking things last minute or not changing course at certain times. So all that, yeah, I wish I could package all that up and throw that back to myself at February 2017, because I think we could have saved money earlier in the process. And that was part of, we probably spent more money in South America because when we first left the United States, we went down to South America for 3.5 months, and we probably spent more in our budget then than I wish looking back, I wish we could have saved some of that money. But it's been great because through those trials, we've learned to save money. And even when we went to Europe for 4 months this summer, I don't think we really blew our budget too much. When we see friends on the road, that's probably when we spend the most money, because it's just so great to see people and you want to hang out and you're going to pubs every night. And I'm just catching up over drinks, and alcohol is really a big budget killer as we go. So just making those adjustments and learning those things.
Awesome. Speaking about the budgets and the adjustments, I know that when my wife and I go on vacation, say we go to Florida for 3 days, there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to spend $1,000. I have no doubt before we leave that that's how much we're going to spend. What actionable advice do you have for people that just travel within the United States as far as saving money and cutting that $1,000 down? Maybe 20% would be pretty huge for people, I think.
Yeah, I would say that we are in a big hotel mentality, like really nice hotels, get the epic shots, walk by the pool, get the great views, because we're in very much an Instagram, Facebook type of mentality. You want to put the great photo on there because so everybody knows that you're doing this great vacation. I would say that there's creative ways now to do that. Obviously, Airbnb is huge, but just really digging into Airbnb and trying to find those deals where you don't have to blow your budget on accommodation, because especially when you're traveling, you don't have to spend all your money on accommodations. You can, if you hold back on, and you can save some money in an Airbnb, whether you're renting somebody's house or if you're a couple. We actually did this prior to leaving, and we traveled with Nicki's sister and her husband to LA, and we shared a home. We were in a shared environment where the host was there, the homeowner was there, and we had a couple of rooms there. And it saved us a ton of money in LA. And LA can be expensive, especially coming from the Midwest, where our cost of living is a lot lower. Going to LA and saving that money helped us have a better time, because then we didn't think as much about the places that we went out, and we could spend a little bit more in that way. So I would just approach it in a way that you don't have to blow all your money on accommodations. And then also just to the whole thought process on traveling is, Nicki and I just talked about this recently, is the idea of traveler's guilt, where you get all this advice online, or you're reading a blog post, or your friends tell you all these different things. If you're going to Sarasota, Florida, and they're saying, oh, you got to go see this and see that. Take vacation as what you want it to be. You don't have to do everything everybody tells you. If a vacation you is sleeping in until 11 a.m. just so you can get that time, that's okay. It's the idea that you don't have to do all the check boxes that other people think that you should do on your vacation. Do travel like you want to do travel. And that's what Nicki and I have learned. We're really good at traveling together, and we tested it many times before we made this big adventure. But we understand how to balance each other. And if there's things that she wants to do that I don't want to do, she can just go out in the day and knock it out too. Or I can go do what I want to do and kind of balance it off each other. But just don't feel like you have to do everything. And then it's like one of those things where you come back and it's like, I need a vacation after a vacation. And it's, if the whole idea was to reset, re-energize, and get ready for your grind when you get home, make sure that you feel that way. And it's not a situation where you just feel spent and you can't even remember everything you went through because you just did too many things.
Yeah, I had I had an experience when I went to Yosemite earlier this year with my wife and her brothers. And in our research, we booked it 9 months in advance. We read about all the things that you need to do when you go to Yosemite, all of the hidden gems, which I'm not sure how hidden they are because everybody searches for the hidden gems. But one of my favorite experiences happened with my brother-in-law. It was like a 9-mile hike right near where we were staying in our cabin. It was a trail, Chilnawalla Falls. And it ended up being just as beautiful as many of the more well-known trails in Yosemite. Couldn't read about it anywhere. Nobody wrote about it. It just happened to be right near our cabin, and that's what led us to doing it. But it was an awesome experience. So, following, just taking doing some unexpected things, I think leads us to at least some of the more fulfilling parts of the vacations.
Yeah, you can go if you went to the Taj Mahal with the wrong people, you probably wouldn't enjoy it. So a lot of it is the experience you have with the person you're going with, or even if you're going by yourself and the mental state that you're in, that is what you come back with, because it's that's what's funny is some people say that they loved. I can remember Nicki and I loved India. We were in India for 2 months. And we were at the tail end of our journey there in a town or a city called Amritsar, where there's this, it's called the Golden Temple. It's this gorgeous golden temple in the middle of their city. And we were coming back to a hostel, and there was this girl there. I think she was from Europe. And we asked her how it was going. And she said that she had only been in India for like 4 days. And she said, "This is miserable. I cannot wait for this 2 weeks to be over so I can go to Nepal." And Nicki and I are just like, what? Like, what is her deal? And I think it's all like the two people can go do the same exact thing and have two complete different perceptions of it based on their mentality and their approach to what they're surrounded by. And if you bring your lifestyle to other cultures and don't transition into theirs and respect theirs and see the positives that are in their culture, you're not going to be able to do it the right way, and you're probably going to have a bad time like this lady did. But there's so many good things that can come out of it. But it's your approach. It's how you see it. It's how you I guess first you got to anticipate it the right way, but then it's also how you're in the moment and trying to take it all in.
How do you go about cultivating that presence and the positive attitude when you're doing these experiences? Let's imagine that you're having a bad day, you're in a bad mood for whatever reason. How do you go about changing your mindset before you do something?
Well,
the place you're traveling.
Yeah, well, I'm an annoyingly positive person. I'm pretty sure my wife would tell you that. Yeah, so I always see the positivity in most everything we do. But in a scenario that you're describing, we miss a train, and then we just had a scenario recently where we lost a computer. We're going through all that to get it from Estonia to Japan, and working through that, and everything's not going right. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, come on, dude. My life's so blessed right now. My life in general, I've lived an unbelievable. It's been a crazy life, but it's storybook in a way too. So anything that's hard and what I'm seeing is nothing. I mean, we've had a chance. Like I said, we've been to India. I mean, you talk about hardship. I mean, there's people there. So when you get a chance to start to see how other people are living around the world and true pain. I mean, sadly, we were in Krakow, Poland, went to Auschwitz for a day there. So when you see things like that, and that's what's been really cool about this journey is when you get to see true tragedy and be around people that are truly struggling, it makes any obstacles that we might be facing extremely minute. And the only way to really go through it at the end of the day is to try to be as positive as possible, knowing that, look, man, we're still traveling the world, and this is a blast.
Yeah, that's comparison. I think a lot of times we're very focused on looking up what we've yet to do, what we've yet to accomplish, what we need to do, and not looking down and being grateful for the things that we have, our health, our life, the fact that, when I breathe in, I get breath, I get air, I'm alive, my heart's beating. It's a very transient time. It's not, you look at 80 years, it's nothing. So in the blink of an eye, I'm not going to be here and you're not going to be here. So just having life is a blessing. I have friends who have lost their health, and having your health is a blessing that I think we take for granted a lot of times. So
Absolutely.
I think gratitude's a good perspective builder.
Absolutely. And it's the reality is this Instagram world we're in. I'm on Instagram. I look at it probably more often than I should. And the reality is especially in the travel world. So now we've got a lot of travel friends, and there's people out there that from a business perspective, you look at a certain way and you're like, man, they're doing really good things in travel. Not that we try to mock them, but we try to see what they're doing well in order to maybe implement it in what we're doing. And you look at travel photos online, and it's impossible. If we attempted to live, if we attempted to do what certain people are doing with either photos or angles or locations, we would be in a constant trying to catch up mentality, and we wouldn't feel the same about our day-to-day travels if we were trying to do that, and we wouldn't keep it as authentic and as real as we are, because we're trying to just live this, man. I mean, it's a lifestyle. We're trying to. I think if you looked at my Instagram page, you would see that like I'm posting real stuff with people and stuff like that. So it's if we look to set a standard for some of the photos that we see out there, we would constantly not be as happy as we should be, because we'd always be like, oh, but look how awesome they're doing it. And it's like, who cares, man? It's what experience are we getting from it, and how we live day to day, if that makes sense.
For sure. I think Instagram's overrated anyway. This is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
That's really all I have to say about that. But social media in general, I think it's a tough thing for me. I don't like things taking away from my experience, and we have a finite amount of time in our day and energy. And like you said, if you're staging photos, you're going to be spending, the pie that you have of where you're spending your energy. It's going to be taken up a lot by just social media crap. And who wants to do that? Who wants to be traveling and living their dream and spending all their time on social media trying to show people how happy you are?
Yeah.
Just be happy. I think that's the simpler solution.
Absolutely.
So I've gone way off track here as
That's
far
okay,
as
yeah.
I want to go back because I think it's important. What was going through your mind as you were leaving on the first leg of the journey, when you reach your goal and you're like, we're going to do this, you're in the plane? What were you thinking about?
I guess I should go back a little bit before the actual step on the plane, just to level set. So the whole process was about 10 months between booking the first flight. It was about 10 months before we left. So we booked the first flight in April of 2016 with the plan to leave in February of 2017. And through that summer, we had booked a couple other flights, different legs of the journey, because it saves money and I was using points and stuff like that. It didn't really get real, because you can always back out of things, right? I mean, that's how life kind of is you set big goals, and then you can always adjust if needed. And so we were about 6 months away, and it was getting real. I mean, we both were on the same page. We both understood we wanted to do it. There was a ton of anxiety built up, but it was something that we hadn't told anybody either. I told a couple of friends that I was wanting to do it, but it's one of those things that everybody's like, yeah, cool, man, that's great. But they're still probably thinking like, yeah, right, dude. But once we got it was October, so about 5 months out, 4 or 5 months out, it was real. We were doing it. It was in place. And like I said, I was in a profession where I was 9 years with the company. Nicki is a clinical pharmacist at a major university hospital. So we had jobs where people relied on us, and we had to start doing it the right way. So we started making sure that we were going to transition out correctly. And then around December, we told our families, and we got through that shock and awe a little bit. And everybody was extremely supportive. And at the same time, we did let our jobs know as well. And then we made that transition over the next 2.5 months to leave near the end of February. So when we stepped on the plane, February 21st, that was basically my first day off. I had to work because I was in corporate sales. I had pipelines for 9 years. I had relationships with clients. I had a consultant based on my job. I had consultants that worked with me. So I had to keep all these things in order and to transition properly with the company. And so it wasn't until I stepped on a plane that I actually stopped working. And so that first month was vacation mode, to be honest with you. I was still in a very much a mental state of this feels like a vacation. And we were going through it. And it wasn't about until and by the way, Nicki had worked almost the same length as me. She had about 3 weeks off. So she chanced to transition. But during that transition process, we're getting the house ready. We're doing all this, or the condo, getting all the stuff ready in the condo, making sure all the finances are tied up, just making sure all the family and friends and everybody feels comfortable with what we're doing in the transition out. So we're after we're about 3-4 weeks in, and we're looking at each other like, man, this is our lifestyle. So this point we're in Chile, and we're just like, this is our lifestyle. This is what we're going to be doing for over 2 years. And then those things start, you get a relaxed mindset, and you start to get more creative, and you start to think about other things, and you interact differently, and it's freeing. It's really freeing, especially we only have one backpack a piece, 146-liter backpack a piece. So you don't have to think about what clothes you're going to wear. You basically, you're grabbing what's clean, and we're living a very easy lifestyle now. That was it, man. And so that first 3 months was a transition of vacation to, hey, this is a lifestyle. And then you start getting into a kind of a freer mentality of, okay, how are we going to do this the best way possible?
So I have to imagine that your routines and the things that you work on need to be fairly structured. There's a lot of moving pieces. What does your morning routine look like?
So that's a tough one because I was a extremely structured person in my former life at home. I had routines that were military, very like military-esque. I grew up in a family where my dad was in the Navy for 20 years. That was my background. That's how I grew up as a kid. So make your bed every day, like things, boom, boom, boom. But now that we're on the road, I've attempted many times to gather a routine, and I continue to struggle with it. And I've become nicer to myself during this process, because there was points in the travel cycle where I'd beat myself up about it. Like, Matt, come on, dude, you've got to get on a routine. You've got to get certain things done during the day. And, I've become nicer to myself in that way, to be more relaxed and say, look, you're still accomplishing things, and it's okay if it's not exactly in the morning, that maybe you can do it at night. So the morning thing is tough, especially as you're transitioning time zones. Like once we got into Japan over the last week.
What are your priorities? I think we have an opportunity here to talk about something that I don't talk about very much on the show, because not everybody's traveling around the world. And dealing with there's some chaotic elements to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Changing time zones, there's chaos. So what do you prioritize? Because I think that's important, knowing what is important to you that you need to regularly do. Yeah, like now there's nothing I need to do, right? Because we're in this situation where we're traveling, but we've got, I guess our main task now, we're managing the blog. We've got a podcast on a weekly basis. I've got a newsletter, and I'm working on a few creative outlets. So for me, the prioritization would be, okay, how do I tap into my creative side on a daily basis and either get something down on paper or move a project along that I'm passionate about? So those have been my priorities, as well as, I'm a very faith-based guy. So making sure that I look at the Word on a daily basis, or do something to open my mind up in that capacity. But also we have to package in there logistics for future travel. So right now we're looking at the fall in Asia and how we're going to bring all these things together to make sure that we see Singapore and Bali and Cambodia. Now we got a friend that just committed in December to how we're going to meet her. So tying all that in, and then also making sure that we see the things that we're here for, right? So as we travel there, there's so many things that we want to venture out and see and walk around the town. So on a daily basis, it's like, okay, make sure that the main priority is, okay, how can we maximize our time in this city to maybe meet some locals,
or at least observe locals, that we get a good sense of the culture, whether it's over food or sitting in a park and hanging out, or just walking through and grabbing the subway and just hanging out and walking around a ton. And also like make sure that I write, or I'm building a YouTube series now and stuff like that. How do I just continue to tap into that and have momentum? Because it's real easy as you travel. If you have 3 or 4 days of sluggishness, man, it can really snowball. You can get into vacation mentality really fast. And that's again, I'm trying to be nicer to myself, because that's okay too. Cause my wife says I'm super serious sometimes. And so I'm trying to also continue to have fun and do these things and really take advantage of all the adventures that we're having. But at the same time, make sure that the process of what we're doing isn't lost in that. You know what I mean? Like the idea that to be able to give back in a way that if our story helps others in some capacity, then that's a cool after effect of what we're doing. And we've been lucky enough where we've seen that already, where friends have reached out. We've had friends that have left their jobs since we've left, and they've reached out and they told us like, dude, you were the reason, man. Like you guys inspired us. Or they've done other things that have been life-changing events for them that have been based on us showing the courage to go through these types of the risks that we had in leaving.
Awesome. There's nothing like the social proofing, leading by example, that puts it in people's mind that it's a doable thing. You know, it's not this overwhelming. Yeah, whenever we undertake a project that other people can see at, like you said, you know, your friends were like, yeah, man, whatever. In a year, I'm going to Pamplona to run with the Bulls. It's something that, you know, I publicly stated because I just needed to. I felt the need. I'm just going to tell everybody. And if you tell people, well, now you have some social accountability, right?
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of telling people your goals. But by showing people like, this is what we're doing. You say $4,000 a month. That's not that bad. That's actually cheaper than my lifestyle now, right? So actually traveling around the world would be cheaper than how we're living today. And I think that's pretty common, especially if you're talking about some of the more metropolitan areas
Absolutely.
In the United States. A friend of mine lives in the Bay Area, and I know that a 2-bedroom apartment there is $2,500 a month. So there you go. That's actually unexpected for me, and $4,000 a month is doable and attainable. So,
I think that to your point, we were talking major cities in the U.S. 100%. It's so much. I wouldn't say so much. It's definitely cheaper to travel the world in certain countries. We were from Indianapolis, Indiana. The cost of living is lower there. So $4,000 a month in the Midwest, you can get by pretty well. So it's one of those things that, based on your scenario, it can be an easier way to do it, and a more fulfilling and fun way too.
No doubt about that. So speaking of more fun, you're in Japan right now, and process habits. You just went to the gym. Can you tell me about your gym experience in Japan? Yeah,
it's wild. So I try to go to the gym or do a workout every other day. I had a major back surgery about 4.5 years ago. I've got 3 cadaver discs in my back, and which that alone, for me to be able to travel full time, is a minor miracle. So I do this back training. It's actually called foundation training. It's the original founders, Dr. Eric Goodman's out of California, and he's now in Hawaii. I like talking about it because it has absolutely changed my life. It is a back focused type of yoga that builds strength and stability. So I do this every other day. Either I find room in our wherever accommodations we're staying at to do it, or if luck has it, we're near a gym, then I definitely find a gym, because then I can pump some weights as well. Here in Japan, I found I went to one gym earlier this week that was pretty nice. They're all very tiny. The gym, all space in Tokyo seems to be space is is hard to come by. So the first gym was tiny. And then this, we had since moved neighborhoods. I found the same type of gym. It's called Anytime Fitness. It's like a chain fitness place. And I went there and they didn't accept foreigners, but she told me where to go. And it ended up being it's like their version of a YMCA or something. And I go to the front desk, and the English isn't the greatest here. It's very broken. So I just do my best through signals and whatnot, but they're very, very accommodating and very kind in Tokyo. And so she told me I had to buy this token and to get a pass to go in, but my shoes had to come off, which I understand, like shoes, the cleanliness of shoes everywhere, they have to come off. But I kept telling her, like, no, I have big feet. I basically just said, I'll take my shoes off. She said, no, you need other shoes. You need other shoes. So she was trying to give me these shoes that were 12 and a halves. And I wear a size 15. And I'm like, no, these don't fit. These don't fit. And so, but she kept wanting me to wear them. And so I finally had to take off my shoe and show her like how big my foot was compared to the shoes she was showing me. And she goes, oh, okay. So she just let me in. But as I was about to enter, there was a gentleman that actually worked there that he looked like he was coming in for his shift. And she told him in Japanese the situation. And then he came up to me and said, I'll take you upstairs. And then he also said, and I told her, I said, sorry, but my shoes. He goes, no problem. I will clean them for you. So I go to this gym. This gentleman cleans my shoes for me, which was so kind. And then I get through the whole process. And then all the workout. And the other thing that struck me is not only this one guy was like doing dance moves in the weight area, which was different. He was practicing his routine, that was pretty awesome. But so everybody seems extremely zoned in on their own personal training. There's not a lot of activity at all between people working out, but they have cleaning. They've got a spray bottle and a rag on every piece of equipment. There's machine equipment. Every piece of equipment has that on it. And they're also stationed all around the gym. So the cleanliness is at an all-time high here wherever you go. And I just find that I love that aspect of the culture where my wife and I are very clean people. So that's welcoming to me, and I dig it. But it's just so different. And I even text my buddy. I got one buddy in North Carolina at home. He played college basketball together with him, and he runs a gym. And I told him, I was like, dude, they've got water, they've got cleaning stuff at every station here. And he said, oh, that wouldn't fly. Oh, and you can't show tattoos here either in the gym. So I had to cover my tattoos as well before I went in, which is a thing. So it's just part of the culture. It's just it's different. I think that tattoos back in the day meant that you were in a gang of some sort. So it's not that they don't hate tattoos. It's just not they still haven't adapted their mentality around tattoos. So yeah,
that's very, very interesting. Why wouldn't the cleaning and spray bottles, why wouldn't that fly in a gym in the US?
I think it works. There's definitely cleaning in the US. I've seen the spray bottles and stuff there, but I think it like that magnitude of spray bottles on every single machine. I think that's what my buddy was saying, is like that many there's no way. Because it is literally every machine has a bottle hanging off of it and a rag hanging off of it. And I think that his take was like, dude, that's just, it just looks the wrong way, if that makes sense. And then the shoe thing too, it's like,
so there's no functional reason to.
No, yeah. It was more like
fly, just
more of a philosophy, or his opinion more so.
I understand. One of my favorite stories from the World Cup this year came from Japan when they busted out, they lost, and their fans stayed after the game to clean up the stadium after themselves and everyone else. And that just struck me as I can't imagine home team fans, their team loses. Can you imagine you're the home team fan in the Super Bowl, your team loses, and you stay afterwards to help the cleaning crew? I think we're more apt to be throwing the beers and our stuff onto the field.
Yeah.
It's
amazing.
Was just an incredible.
And then they said that they left a note in the locker room that said, "Thank you, Russia," in their locker room after they cleaned it up as well. I'm telling you, it is, I can feel that here. We've only been here less than a week now. And that level of kindness is everywhere. It really is. You can just, they seemed, as a culture, they seem like they don't want to get in your way, and they don't overly go out of their way to talk to you. But if they see you struggling with anything, they're definitely going to help in a big way. Yeah, it's been amazing so far. We're going to be here for 6 weeks. So we are excited in different parts of the country too. So we're really excited to take it all in.
That's awesome. And I would love to learn their processes for cultivating that kind of respect for other people, because it's something that I think everybody in the world, I think we could all be better at it. And they're obviously like on next level.
It really, yeah.
So
yeah.
I would learn to love exactly what it is that they do.
And the subways, just real quick, the subways are extremely quiet because of that respect for each other. They have their headphones in. If they speak to anybody, it's a whisper, and they want to respect each other because people seem to be extremely tired here. So if they're on their way home, it gives them a chance to rest and sleep on the subway as they're going home. And it is real. It's so quiet. And so we've been on the subway probably 12 times now. Every time, extremely quiet.
So there's nobody's listening to music without their headphones in on the subway.
No. And there's nobody trying to perform to beg for money and playing an instrument like I've experienced in Midtown Manhattan or something.
So earlier you mentioned working towards your large goals. What's a large goal that you're working on?
You know, I haven't really openly talked about this yet. I'm working on a screenplay. So that's a big creative goal of mine is to hopefully work through that screenplay, because that's quite a daunting process.
Coincidentally, you just listened to my last episode with Scott Myers, who is a screenplay guy. And, I've joined the group, the Zero Draft 30 group, where the month of September, from beginning to end, they, from fade in to fade out, right? The Zero Draft. So that might actually be valuable for you to check out and join the group. Yeah,
that timing might actually be really good. I was really inspired by that interview. Yeah, that's a hard problem. Writing in general, to hear his level of discipline was amazing. And that, I think it's like I think if you approach it like exercise, you're just like, hey, this is something I got to do every day. And you get that momentum, and then you feel off when you don't do it. That's where I need to get. And I think that I'm still early in that, where writing is not difficult, but it's not like, I don't wake up every morning saying, I know I'm going to write, where I wish that I would. I wish that I knew that it was just so deep in me that I had to, or my day wouldn't feel complete. But eventually, before we get off the road, I want to feel like that, because it's definitely, you get better through the process of it. And I guess it's a learned skill, because I've read many books where when you talk about the difficulties, the resistance, it's real. The things that draw you not write, the BS excuses you make mentally, it's real. The resistance is real to not give into whatever creative outlet you're looking for.
And it's hard. I mean, let's be honest here. 24,000 blog posts over 10 years is absurd. First of all, it's an unfathomable number. It's like when people talk about $1 trillion or 50 billion. My mind can't even grasp 24,000 blog posts. But anytime you endeavor to create something and use a lot of mental energy, the brain, despite being, it's like 2% of the body weight, it consumes 25% of our energy. And whenever that's focused on something like that, you get tired. Yeah. The reason you make excuses is because it's hard. You're struggling, right? But I think that as habits and rituals go, the more often you do it, like you said, the easier it does get. But for the first little while, it is definitely tough. Coming from somebody who has written some stuff, I want to take a nap whenever I'm done writing 2,000 words.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to talk about your daily food and supplement intake. I know that your wife, Nicki, is a vegan. Are you a vegan as well? I guess is where I'll start.
Yeah. So I went through a process where this was probably 3 years ago. Yeah, I'll call it 3 years ago. I had some bad heart readings, right? Went to the doctor. He said some things weren't right, and was going to put me on medication. But then he said, before I do that, here's a couple of books, go read them. Luckily, I had a good relationship with my doctor, because I don't think all doctors would do that. And one was Eat to Live, and the second book was The China Study. And after that, it really convinced me to live a vegetarian lifestyle. So I did. I changed rather quickly. And within 6 weeks, I dropped 23 pounds, got all my cholesterol levels in the right order, did not need any medication. I was a fan. I was like, this works. It's a no-brainer. This is my new lifestyle. And so since I've kept focused on a vegetarian lifestyle when it makes sense, but and to me, makes sense means when I have opportunities to eat local cuisine, I definitely go outside of that. So I am not I cannot in any way claim that I'm a vegetarian, but if I eat, I usually don't eat, I like intermediate fasting, where I basically eat lunch and dinner and just drink coffee for breakfast. So if I eat 14 meals a day or 14 meals a week, probably 2 or 3 of those may have meat, depending upon the culture that we're in. And if people are serving me food, like when I say serving, if we have a chance to interact with locals that are making food and they want to give me some of it, they love feeding me. I'm a big dude. I'm 6'6", 220. So especially in cultures like India and South America, where I really stick out, they think the big guy likes to eat a lot. So they just want to give me whatever they got. So I've had a chance to eat a wide variety of things, from ostrich and pigeon and duck and goat head and all kinds of wild intestine type things. And so on the road, I'm wide open. I eat anything if it's served up. The only thing I didn't eat was the guinea pig in Peru. And that was just because the opportunity was never there. I told Nicki didn't want me to eat it. And I just said, look, if it happens that somebody makes me guinea pig, I'm going to eat it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to eat it. And it just never happened for us. It just never came together that way. So I didn't eat it. But yeah, it's been, I'm one of those guys, I can't claim it anymore. There was phases in my life where I was a strict vegetarian for 6 to 8 months in a row, but no longer. But Nicki is amazingly strict in her diet. And it's not even, some of it's health, most of it's health. It's probably 98% of it's health. 2% is probably like the texture. If she ever thought of eating meat, it gross her out. She's not like doesn't have to do, she loves animals. She's an animal lover, but it's not because of that. It's more of the health focused reasons.
Nice. My wife and I are pescatarian.
Okay.
So we do eat fish. Can't lay off the sushi. That's the downfall. The sushi. Love the sushi. But, you mentioned intermittent fasting, which is I do it myself every day. I eat between the hours of 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. And then other than that, no eating.
Yeah.
Why the intermittent fasting? Why do you do it?
Well, I'd heard about it, and I did some 3-day fast, 3-day water fasts. And I still try to do those about 4 times a year. I'll do a 3-day fast. I just loved the way I felt. It was one of those things where I'd come out of a 3-day fast feeling so brand new. It just felt like my body was recharged. I had so much more energy. So then I started dripping in these 14 to 16 hour fasts each day. And it just makes me feel so much better. It's as you're hitting about the 12 to the 14 hour mark, you just get like peak energy, and your brain's free. And since I've been doing it, and I've been reading about it more, the reality is our bodies, I just don't think they're built to be digesting food on a regular basis. If you look back in time, I mean, way back. I mean, not even too far back. People probably only ate once a day or so, once or twice a day, because that's all that they could afford. And especially when you step in other cultures, some cultures love to eat as much as we do as Americans, that they want to eat 3 meals a day because it's one of those things where,
well, you're eating 14 meals a day, so.
Yeah, right. I think some people think it signifies wealth in some way. The more opportunity you have to eat. In other cultures, some of the poor nations, they might say, well, if we can afford to eat 3 times a day, why wouldn't we? Because we have the money to do that. Where I think from a health perspective, it just makes sense to eat twice or once a day.
And beyond the research, beyond all the stuff, in my very first episode, I talked to Barb Schmidt, who was a big fan of meditating in the 80s. Before all the research came out, that it was, it gave you all these benefits. But basically, it made her feel good. She could notice a tangible effect. And intermittent fasting with me has been the same. I feel good. I feel like my day is streamlined. I'm not concerned with breakfast. And I'll eat breakfast for lunch or dinner because I love breakfast. But, my day seems streamlined. I feel like my energy levels are higher and my levels of focus are much higher as well. And that's a tangible thing that I can feel. So beyond any of the research, I'm a big fan of experimentation because if you try something and it changes your life, then you can just use that forever. You've got everything to gain. And if you try something and it doesn't make sense, well, who cares? You don't do it, right?
Absolutely.
So, Matt, have you ever strongly believed something in life only to reverse course later on? And if so, what led to that change of belief?
Yeah, I think that for a really long time, I've been one of these people that thought that anybody could have a positive mindset and anybody can alter their lives significantly. And I always thought that people want to do that. They want to have the best life they possibly can, and they want to achieve big goals. I've since, I think I've reversed my thought on that. And I just think that some people out there, they thrive on negativity. They thrive on bad news. They want others to fail. You just got to see those people and just say, you know what, they don't want to change. And so at one point I always thought that like, no, everybody wants this. Everybody wants to have a better life and everybody wants to have, be the most they can be. I've changed my viewpoint over the last few years on that and just felt like, I see that as some people just want to be their minimal self, and that's okay for them. And I just don't really participate with them much or have them around me once I understand those traits, or if they have a closed mindset and they don't think that they can grow, then those are traits that I don't want to surround myself with because it's not going to be positive for my life. But I think that that's something I changed because at one point I always just thought people wanted the best outcome. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that, and I don't know if it's the transparency in like social media or the news or other things that has brought me to this viewpoint. It's not necessarily my travels, because I think I saw that prior to. During the travels, you see struggles. I don't think that people want to remain struggling. I think that some people wish they had a better life, but that maybe they don't have the tools or the knowledge to understand how to get that life. I think that's different than people that understand that maybe their life could be better, but they're just stuck in negativity.
How do you go about limiting your exposure to those types of people?
I've gone as far as tell people that if you don't change your negativity, I can't be around you as much. I've gone to that length because people understand I'm extremely positive, and they can feel it when they're around me a long enough time to say like, oh man, this guy is he sees the world a certain way. And so if you're around me long enough that the negativity is draining me or it's not helping me in some way, I'll confront it head on and just say, look, I'm going to limit my time with you unless you decide to change, or the way that you talk or work with me changes. So I deal with it head on. And luckily I've been blessed that in my career life, people always told me that I was extremely transparent and thoughtful in that way, that even when it comes to bad news, I direct it head on, because I'd much rather go to bed at night with a clear head than have things dragging me down on a regular basis, thinking about something difficult that I need to go overcome in some way. So I'd rather just say, hey, can you come in my office, or hey, can we go grab a coffee and let's go talk about these things, and just get it out. You know what I mean?
Has that ever led to change when you've confronted somebody?
Oh, absolutely.
In that way?
Absolutely. And the thing is some people don't know they're negative. Some people will, they don't even know that they're putting out this energy, or they've never, they don't understand their words on a regular basis can affect how they look at life. And if you say like, hey, do you know that, like, the way that you're seeing these problems, they're extremely negative. But if you look at this side of it, look at this positivity that's going on in another way, maybe if you just look at that way, you might feel differently about it. And I've had people thank me for pointing stuff like that out. And it's hopefully changed their path as well, to become more positive. I promise you, if you wake up with positive thoughts and your first few moments of the day are positive, and it just continues, and it's a practice. It's like meditation you talked about. It's called the practice of meditation for a reason. It's practice. It's hard. But over time, if you practice those positive thoughts, your day is going to shift, and then day shiftings becomes with weeks shifting. And then all of a sudden your life is on a different path, and it's real. I know it's real.
There's no doubt about it. One of my favorite books is a book called Words Can Change Your Brain. And it talks about the language that we use, how we look at things affects how we think about things. And, you know, it's important to be mindful of what you say, because what you say matters, and words have power. Speaking of, you know, daily habit, my daily habit is I meditate first thing. Second thing, I stretch, and I verbally express gratitude for the things that I have in my life today, because tomorrow I might not have all of those things. And I think when you have that perspective of noticing the things that you're grateful for, it sets you up to be more aware of more things to be grateful for throughout your day, which leads into a positive outlook, which, you know, leads into, in my opinion, a much more fulfilling existence. I think there's nothing, it makes me really sad. It's a tragic thing that I see when people live their life and they're constantly focused on the negative when there's so much positive. There's so many good things that they could see, and they just, it doesn't enter their headspace.
Absolutely. And I promise you this, whatever higher power or just the universe or whatever, if you're not giving gratitude for the things that you're receiving on a daily basis, it's the gifts will stop coming, or they will slow. But if you continue to give thanks for all the blessings you have, they will multiply. You talked about the thoughts becoming things, and one of the foundational books of that whole, I guess, that whole genre of the philosophies around that comes from James Allen. As a Man Thinketh is written in, I think, 1903. But it's the only physical book that I brought with our journey. Like I said, we've got 46-liter backpack. There's not much room in there to pack things. But that was the one physical book that I brought with me, because I grab it and I read it from time to time, because every time you read it, it's a different read. It's only 45, 46 pages long. But it's so important because it talks about those philosophies you're talking about it, and the idea that the things that you're focused on and you're thinking about on a daily basis can change the life as you see it, and the things that do come your way. So I'm a big fan of those philosophies.
Awesome. So you mentioned the screenplay. What's another project that you're working on that allows your soul to breathe, that's very near and dear to your heart, you're passionate about?
I'm not sure when this is going to air, but I'm working on a YouTube series that I'm so extremely happy to be able to share, because it has to do with kind of some manly things as I travel, and a way that I can share things that are really important to me from the travel experience, how I get to interact with cultures around the world. And I think it's going to be unique, and I think it's going to be well received in a way that it's something that people might not see on a regular basis. So without giving too much in there, but so this YouTube project of mine is I don't know. It's really charged me up. When I thought of the idea, I was super excited about it. It's something that I think that will hopefully help the followers see other cultures in an extremely unique way.
Awesome. I can't wait to look, and I'm going to leave resources to all these things on the website whenever the show does go live, so my audience can check that out.
Thank you. And I appreciate you not prying too deep, because we're still working with a couple of people, and we're still about 2 months out from that being released.
So if you could share one truth with the world, what would it be?
How you do something is how you do everything. I'm a big fan of that. I think that your character is tested every day. And whether it's you drop paper on the side of the road and you have a decision to just let that thing go or pick it up, I think that all the little tests turn into who you are as a person. So I would say that.
How do you go about improving how you do the little things?
I think we're tested on a regular basis.
So having awareness.
The judgments we make. Yeah. Just saying that you can smile when you enter a room. You can treat people with courtesy. You can open doors. I mean, we're living in this, it's a different time right now. It's just different. I grew up what I would say I'm a gentleman, and we're in a time where it gets awkward. Should I give up my seat on a crowded bus? Because does that mean that I'm not seeing people equally? If that makes sense. And but for me, it's like, no, that's just how my mom raised me. My mom and dad raised me. I'm a gentleman. Give up your seat to an older woman because that's what you're supposed to do. And but I think that we're in this weird time where I'm a fan of equality and rights across the board. But I think that there's still characters in there. You know what I mean? There's still things from a character perspective you should do. And I think that's how I'm trying to live that way, if that makes sense, and not worry so much on how it might be perceived by the one person in the corner giving you a side eye. You know what I mean? Because there's going to be judges all across in different areas. So you got to just do the best in your life every day to do it the right way.
Give it any sample size, no matter what you're doing, there's always going to be a critic. I think that's just something that you learn, especially as a creator, and when you put things out there in the world, that you can't please everybody, you can't make everybody happy. I will say, my wife is, she's a feminist. She's all about the girl power. And one of the things that she loves the most about me, one of the actions, I guess, that I do regularly that she loves the most is that I open the door for her when she gets in the car every single time.
Yeah.
She's grateful for that. It's a small thing. It's for anybody that follows the Pareto principle, that is in a relationship, it's a 20% thing that gives an 80% of the results. So yeah, I think that doing kind things it can never go out of style. Helping people, Japan must be right up your alley.
Yeah,
with all the things that they do.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
awesome.
And it's like the door thing. Actually, when we were in South Africa, and we stayed with a lady there, and her husband, he had since deceased, but she had said that her husband would talk to the gentleman that would pick up their daughters. And if they didn't open the door for them, they said, he would say, so is it that you don't think my daughter is worthy, or are you just a bad guy? Because either way, it's like, there's something wrong here, buddy. If you don't think you should open the door for my daughter, then what's that say about your thoughts on my daughter? Or you're just not a good enough dude to think that that's important. So yeah, I think little things like that are important in people's character.
100%. So, my friend, where can people find you on the World Wide Webs?
I think the easiest way to share it is passportjoy.com. That has everything there. It has our blog, our podcast links. We share the books that we're reading, all of our journey around the world. We share tips, ways to save money, and everything can be found. All of our social media links as well, and everything can be found at passportjoy.com.
Awesome, man. It's been an honor, a pleasure having you on the show. Maybe we'll do a round 2 in a couple of years. Once you get back, we'll reflect on everything. So, yeah, once again, honor. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I'm very grateful.
Thank you. Appreciate it.